Welcome to another round of Prem and Proper here in SDH. We'll take you through everything going on in the Premier League, what happened over the last 7 days to get you ready for the next 7 days. And we'll go through a lot of the news since we're getting toward the end of the window, less than a week to go, for any kind of transfers to happen in the Premier League. We'll go through all of that with a lot of help from our friends this week, from our friends at Sky Sports Premier League on the 280 character app, as they did a lot of analysis. We'll find out about transfers, Mo Salah, Spurs, Manchester United, and Manchester City as we go. But to go forward, we've got to go backward, take you over the last 7 days and the results that happened. First off, let's go to Friday Night Football. Last time out, Nottingham Forest. If they are going to stay up this year, they're going to have to get results like they did last Friday night. 2-1 win over Sheffield United at a -108. Early morning on Saturday, you had 3 matches. Brighton put 4 on Wolves at a -123, winning on the road at Molineux. Dominating performance. They would get full points, as would Liverpool, 3-1 winners at home against Bournemouth at a -476. Brentford, bit of a shocking result, just the distance. Not necessarily that they got the win at a +170 as a small favorite at Craven Cottage going up against Fulham, but the fact they won 3-0. And a lot of the folks that they're counting on to try to fill in the holes for Ivan Toney were doing so in that 3-0 win. Spurs, this one was a bit of a surprise. 2-0 win at home as a +204 going up against Manchester United. Manchester United was a +125 going in. Your draw was a +276. Manchester City got the 1 goal. That's all they needed. 1-0 win over Newcastle to get full points to stay at the top of the chase in the Premier League. Then on Sunday, 2 matches, one at 9 o'clock Eastern, one at 11:30 Eastern. Aston Villa putting Everton in a world of hurt at a -119, and Everton was a +329. Folks were booing Everton. The Everton fans were booing Everton as they were leaving the pitch there in that 4-0 loss, and it could be a lot worse when it comes to having to deal with financial fair play. Jamie Carragher, in a column at the Telegraph, basically said that Everton is one of the worst-run franchises right now in all of the pyramid in England. We'll go into that in the news and notes coming up in just a little bit. West Ham, another surprise, 3-1 win at home at their stadium, taking on Chelsea at a +229. Chelsea was a +119 going in, and they were lacking in points going out. So big loss for Chelsea with all the money they've been spending, not getting the results that Bully Clear Lake have definitely been looking for. Then your final match, Arsenal, once again, much like Manchester City, you get the 1 goal on the board. That's all you need. 1-0 win at Selhurst Park against Crystal Palace. So that sets up everything as we get you ready for match week number 3. And at the top, it is Brighton on goal difference. One of 3 teams that are perfect so far. Brighton, Manchester City, Arsenal. Brighton with a goal difference of +6. That is why they are on top. Brentford is at 4 points. Their goal difference is ahead of Liverpool, Spurs, and West Ham. 8th place takes you down to Newcastle, who is ahead on goal difference over Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, and Crystal Palace. And Manchester United, negative goal difference. They are in 12th. Fulham is in 13th. 1 point on the board both for Chelsea and Bournemouth. Then that gets you to the bottom 5. Sheffield and Luton right now on goal difference and goals scored are out of the relegation zone currently. And then it's Burnley, it is Wolves, and it is Everton. To the news and notes of the week, start things off with the transfer whip around once again from our friends at Sky Sports Premier League, catching up with one-liners from each team with a week to go.
It's back. Time to go round the clubs, Darmesh.
Certainly is, Michael. Monaco close to a verbal agreement with Arsenal for striker Folarin Balogun. Personal terms not expected to be a problem.
Aston Villa are interested in signing Arsenal defender Nuno Tavares. He's available on a permanent deal or a loan with a buy clause.
Bournemouth want to sign a winger and a striker before next Friday's deadline.
Brentford have bid $34 million for Fiorentina winger Nicolas Gonzalez. He's playing and starting against Rapid Vienna right now.
Brighton are after a midfielder. Their primary target is Lille's Carlos Baliba. They're also looking at Arsenal's Albert Sambi Lokonga.
Burnley are one of a number of clubs interested in signing Manchester United's young left-back Alvaro Fernandez.
Chelsea have signed David Washington from Santos on a 7-year deal. New England Revolution keeper Jordi Petrovic is expected to have a medical this week.
Crystal Palace remain in talks with Manchester United over a deal for Dean Henderson.
Everton in talks with Udinese over the transfer of Portuguese striker Beto.
Fulham are interested in signing Atalanta striker Duvan Zapata. A proposed move for the Colombia striker to join Roma has broken down, and Fulham are now considering an approach.
Saudi Pro League side Al Ittihad haven't given up on signing Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah. Salah has got 2 years left on his contract, and Liverpool say he is not for sale.
Former Manchester United defender Axel Tuanzebe is training with Luton at the moment. New signing Ross Barkley could make his debut against Chelsea tomorrow night.
Manchester City have bid £47 million for Wolves midfielder Mateus Nunes. Bid rejected. Winger Jeremy Doku has joined for £55 million from Rennes, and Aymeric Laporte has joined Al Nassr.
Manchester United target Sofran Amrabat has been left out of their Fiorentina squad for the Europa Conference League qualifier against Rapid Vienna.
Newcastle United have signed 18-year-old defender Cahill Heffernan following his departure from AC Milan.
Nottingham Forest remain in talks with Bologna over the signing of midfielder Nicolas Dominguez. The Argentinian international has entered the final year of his contract.
Sheffield United are close to signing Cameron Archer from Aston Villa for a fee in the region of £18 million.
Tottenham goalkeeper Hugo Lloris has trained with the first team today. He's not interested in a move to Lazio, and the club are now turning their attention to other targets.
West Ham United are finalising details on a deal worth £38 million for Ajax midfielder Mohamed Kudus, who has just scored for Ajax tonight.
And Wolves do not want to sell Matthias Nunes. It would take a big offer for them to consider a sale. However, a big fee would allow them to reinvest in several positions, which they would otherwise be unlikely to do due to FFP constraints. The Rap is back.
Then one of the other big plot lines, and Jurgen Klopp completely denied that there was any interest or any desire to have Mo Salah leave with a couple of years left on his contract at Liverpool. Kaveh Solakal investigates, courtesy of our friends at Sky Sports, the idea that Salah could be leaving to the Saudi Premier League.
About Mo Salah from Al Ittihad's perspective and also potentially the players' perspective. But we've got to talk about it from Liverpool's perspective as well. And as far as they're concerned, they have not received any bids whatsoever for Mo Salah from anyone. No bid from Saudi Arabia, no bid from any clubs for Mo Salah. And as far as they're concerned, if they were to receive any bids, and they don't want any bids, those bids would be rejected. And their position is really, really simple. The player is not for sale. Signed a new contract last summer for 3 years. He's still got 2 years left on it. The window closes a week tomorrow. Far too late for them to do any business or getting any replacements. So their position is player not for sale. Al Ittihad, of course, we know are going to go all out to try and get the player. They're going to offer him more money than you could ever believe would be possible for a footballer. There's been talk of offering him something like £1 million a week tax-free, more than £1 million a week tax-free, I think, which would be a pay rise of something like 500-600% for him. But as far as Liverpool are concerned, no bid, player not for sale.
But in a later conversation, Kaveh basically said Al Ittihad would go all out.
Here at Sky Sports News, the Saudi Pro League club Al Ittihad are prepared to go all out to try and sign Mo Salah from Liverpool. Huge story. We've had to drag our chief reporter Kaveh Solakal in for the very latest. Kaveh, what can you tell us?
Well, look, we've known for quite a while that Al Ittihad want to sign Mohamed Salah, and we've also known that as far as Liverpool are concerned, the player is not for sale. When these reports first started emerging about a month ago that Al Ittihad were interested in the player, his own agent, Rami Abbas Issa, came out on social media and said, look, Mo Salah is committed to Liverpool. If that wasn't the case, he wouldn't have signed a new contract last summer. Now, that contract makes him the best paid player at Liverpool. It's still got 2 years left to run. And Liverpool are very, very clear. They do not want to sell the player. But as we've seen all summer, these Saudi Pro League clubs do not take no for an answer. And as far as they're concerned, they have their list of targets and they'll do whatever it takes to sign those players. So they're not going to give up. And the Saudi window crucially, is open for, I think, another 7 days after the window closes here. The Saudi Pro League window is due to close on September the 7th. So this has a really destabilising effect on Liverpool, but it's something that everybody in the game in Europe has had to become used to, because the Saudi Pro League is here to stay and they have the money to try and sometimes succeed in buying the best players in the world.
Yeah, bottomless pockets, the Saudis, it seems. So Mo Salah not for sale was the message earlier in the summer, but how not for sale is not for sale?
I think he is just not for sale. You know, he's Liverpool's best paid player. Jurgen Klopp, the last thing he will want is to lose him so late in the window. Jurgen Klopp came out a couple of weeks ago and said he was very unhappy with the fact that the SPL window was open after the Premier League window closes. He was worried about the fact that Saudi clubs could come in and take players away from Premier League clubs when the window was closed here, so that Premier League clubs wouldn't be in a position to be able to replace those players. And if Al Ittihad do try and sign Mo Salah after this window closes next Friday, then Jurgen Klopp's worst nightmares will have come true. But look, you know, this is a transfer market. Saudi clubs have a different window to Premier League clubs, and Al Ittihad are doing nothing wrong. They're trying to sign a player. Obviously, as you mentioned, you know, does every player have his price? Will it get to a stage where the price is so high that Liverpool will be tempted to cash in on him? But there's been no indication so far from the club that that is the case. But, you know, we've seen time and again this summer, Saudi clubs identify targets and then they basically throw money at those targets. And, you know, clubs can say no, the players can say no as well, but they keep coming back, the offers get higher and higher and higher. And as far as the players are concerned, the offers are tax-free. So, you know, we are talking about incredible sums of money. And we've also been told that some of these players who are reluctant to move to Saudi Arabia are being told, OK, tell you what, we'll give you 50% of your wages over the whole term of your contract up front now, tax-free, to try and tempt you to move to the SPL. But look, bottom line is he's got a contract with Liverpool, so he's not going anywhere unless Liverpool decide that they want to sell him.
We mentioned Spurs. Right now they are in 6th. Welcome to the Ange Postecoglou era. 4 points, 4 goals scored in their first 2 matches. Here is their update as we get close to the end of the window.
Who are they?
Yeah, there is a long list, and it's actually a few names that recur year after year, it feels like, when we go through it now. So you can see on the board there, Eric Dyer, he's available, Jed Spence as well, Tanganga, Davinson Sanchez, Reguilon, Ndombele, Højbjerg, Hill, Lloris. There is so many names on that list, and we were saying off air, you know, we talked about Lloris just there, the fact that he's not managed to get his move away. Flex, are there any names on there that particularly surprise you, or do you think they all are ready to move on and away from their time?
Yeah, I think they're ready to kind of move on. The Jed Spence one was quite interesting because, you know, he helped get Forest up and looked a really exciting prospect. And I looked at it with Antonio Conte and thought maybe that's not going to be the right manager for him. But maybe Ange Postecoglou would have been. So I'm a little bit surprised from an outsider looking in that maybe Ange Postecoglou didn't look at him. But I think the rest of those players probably about right.
I think it's really key when you get a new manager in as well that you do get rid of the players that are surplus to requirements, because you don't want to have to be worrying about those players and thinking about where they fit and how they can develop.
That attitude around the players as well when they're not playing.
Exactly, all of those things have a huge factor on the squad and the mood as well. So for Postecoglou coming in, he's identified the players he wants to work with, who he sees as part of his vision in this transitionary period. And for the rest, it would benefit both sides, I think both parties all involved, to be able to get that move away. But for some of those names, it does feel like it is a bit difficult. And when will they get their move? Because we have been speaking about them repeatedly over the course of this transfer window and further back as well.
We mentioned Manchester United, once again being right now negative goal difference after their first 2 matches. Frustration with Bruno Fernandes. Fans looking to have the captain's armband taken off of him and given to someone else. Sky Sports Premier League asked the question, who are the most important signing, or who is the most important signing of the Erik Ten Hag era to date?
The signings Manchester United have made under Erik Ten Hag. Flex, if you had to say who was the most important signing so far in Ten Hag's era, who would you argue for?
At the top of the list, it's got to be between Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez. I think those two have been the most transformative signings that we've made. I think that's going to be closely followed by Andre Onana, but last year, it was a real shoe-in between Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro. Casemiro bringing that experience that he's got from Real Madrid, that sort of IQ, that understanding on a football pitch of where to be, how to put fires out before they start. Scored some big goals as well. Yeah. That was one of the things about Casemiro that you wasn't sort of maybe aware of, but scored huge goals for us last year. But Lisandro Martinez, for me, probably just shaded it because his build-up from the back, it was absolutely fantastic. The way he knits the central defensive line, can step into midfield, can get Manchester United ticking. When he got injured in Europa League for the back end of that season, Manchester United really, really missed him. He hasn't started too well, ironically, this season, but a massive, massive player for Manchester United. So I'd probably just shade Lisandro Martinez in that, but Casemiro has been... Some people could easily think it's him because he's been transformational for Manchester United also.
Yeah, he's had lots of work to get through in that Manchester United midfield so far this season. I'm going to throw my theory at you and see what you think as the Manchester United man. So, before Casemiro came in, Martinez was adapting to the Premier League. It was a little bit of a struggle in those first few games. Then Casemiro came in and Martinez seemed to adapt and get used to the Premier League. Do you think you could argue that Casemiro is the more important signing because he offers that perhaps physical presence that Martinez doesn't have? So it's kind of, he's taken over that physical responsibility, even though Martinez is the centre-back?
Absolutely. And what's unique with both of these two players is that there isn't a like-for-like within the team if either of them are missing. When Casemiro wasn't there, we struggled with that. Definitely when Lisandro Martinez was missing, yes, Victor Lindelof can come in.
I thought Shaw did well there.
Very
when
steady.
He filled in,
Luke
actually.
Shaw can come in, exactly, really, really good. But there was definitely not a like-for-like replacement in terms of Casemiro, and that's why I say it really is that close. I think with both players, there's an argument for either or to be the player of the season for Manchester United because of the impact that they've had on that squad. But I just think actually you make a good point because when Luke Shaw did come in at left centre-back, he was absolutely fine. And the drop-off from Martinez, apart from the distribution and the ball-playing side of things, wasn't as big as say, maybe Fred coming in for Casemiro or McTominay coming in for Casemiro with a big difference there.
And then last piece of sound from our friends at Sky Sports Premier League on the board. Does Manchester City even really need Matheus Nunes from Wolves? First bid was turned down by Wolves. You know that Manchester City will continue to go to the table, but the question is, do they need Matheus Nunes?
I think in the terms of he's quite multifunctional, so he's been playing wide so far for Wolves this season, but mainly has operated as a box-to-box central midfield player. I wouldn't say he's the stereotypical midfielder that Pep has had in the middle of the park. He's very good in transition, though, hustle and bustle. Should score more goals and get more assists for the type of player that he is, I would say. But he's the kind of player that's involved in moves, but he's never one of the ones that gets the credit for the goal or the assist. But he's always involved in the build-up. He had a really good game, flex or no, against Manchester United on the first day of the
Didn't
season.
See him, mate.
Thought he looked...
He's that quick. Didn't see him. Do you know what? There's no need for that. Yeah. Minding my own business.
It's early, isn't it?
Waiting to get involved in the show.
1 minute in.
Look at that.
As a connoisseur of football, I thought Flex would know. He had a good game that day, but then let himself down at the weekend against Brighton, got himself sent off for a silly second booking. But his player's been linked with Liverpool before. He's been involved for Portugal. He was in the World Cup squad, albeit he didn't really play very much. So he's a high-profile, high-level player, but I wouldn't stereotypically say he's a Pep player.
Harriet, do you think City needs him? Why do they want him, do you think?
Yeah, well, they've lost De Bruyne to injury for a couple of months. Unclear exactly how long he'll be out for. But with that coupled with the departure also of Gundogan, of course, who departed this summer, it leaves a huge creativity void in that midfield that Pep Guardiola will be looking to solve. Now, we know how good he is at finding internal solutions, and he's played Foden there in that midfield role, and he's looked really creative in that aspect. But I think he still feels like he wants to now turn to the transfer market, look for something a little bit different and just bring in a few more reinforcements, because Pep Guardiola operates on a kind of idea of strength in depth and quality in depth and not just quantity as well. And if you look at some of De Bruyne and Gundogan's numbers from last season, De Bruyne registered 31 assists in all competitions over the course of the season. Gundogan as well, 11 goals and 7 assists. So they really have lost a lot while De Bruyne is still out with injury to fill. And I think they see Nunes as someone who could come in, Premier League experience, hit the ground running, provide that attacking output. They've of course brought Kovacic in as well over the summer transfer window. Not really the same kind of midfielder who's going to bring the attacking impetus. So yeah, they're looking externally now, although I do back Pep Guardiola to solve anything internally, even if they didn't manage to get this player in.
And we mentioned what's going on right now with Everton and the concerns of a lot of Everton fans on both sides of the pond when it comes to how things are currently going for them. If Everton are relegated, the losses will be colossal. Tom Morgan with a special report with our friends at The Telegraph. And insiders maintain that Bill Kenwright's addiction to finally scratching an itch at Everton still drives him. Kenwright once insisted he must land silverware as an advisor told him he should leave after the 2009 FA Cup final defeat to Chelsea. These days, staring down the barrel of a third successive relegation battle, the Bramley Moore Dock Stadium development is instead talked up internally as his legacy piece. If they get relegated, I fear for the worst. That was a headline inside the article. Last week has been chastening as any for the People's Club in perpetual crisis. Back-to-back defeats. Wednesday, it was announced that the New York-based firm MSP Capital had walked away from an imminent £150 investment deal. Farhad Moshiri, the British-Iranian owner, and Kenwright already talking to alternative investors, but the suggestion is that the existing lender, Rights and Media Funding Limited, will effectively be entitled to request high tens of millions in quotation marks from whoever is successful before a penny goes into the club. To add to the sense of gloom, the club appears before an independent commission on October 25 over an alleged breach of financial fair play rules. So you have to keep an eye on all of this. The thought is Moshiri can't go on throwing money down a hole. You've got FFP that you're staring at, and a lot of folks are saying it's absurd going after Everton when Manchester City are facing 115 charges. Kenwright believes he's the only man who can turn this around, and that's where we are. But your requested reading for the day comes from The Telegraph and a deep dive by Tom Morgan about the state of affairs when it comes to Everton. Getting into your gossip, rumor, and innuendo heading into the weekend. Crystal Palace planning to gamble on Eden Hazard by handing the ex-Chelsea and Real Madrid forward a one-year deal despite his injury problems, courtesy of our friends at Football Transfers. Brentford had put an £80 million pound price tag on Ivan Toney. Arsenal and Spurs interested in signing the player in January once he served his 8-month ban for breaching gambling rules. Arsenal close to reaching an agreement with Real Sociedad over a season-long loan involving Kieran Tierney. The Gunners have also agreed on a fee of €45 million, £38 million, plus add-ons with Monaco for the sale of Folarin Balogun. Manchester United close to agreeing to a one-year deal on Johnny Evans, which could raise doubts about the future of Harry Maguire. An unnamed Albanian side, according to TalkSport, is interested in signing Mason Greenwood after the club and player reached a mutual decision for him to leave Old Trafford. Spurs are at loggerheads with Forest over the fee to sign Brennan Johnson, with the East Midlands club, according to The Independent, unwilling to let the forward go for anything less than £40 million. That seemed to have been about the rate. 40 to 50 were the numbers that were tossed around earlier in this window. Chelsea are also interested in signing Johnson, players very highly thought of at Stamford Bridge. Aston Villa interested in Barcelona's winger Abdi Ezalzouli, but face competition from Bayer Leverkusen for the 21-year-old, according to 90 Minutes. Nottingham Forest set to sign Chelsea's 19-year-old midfielder Andre Santos on loan. That did go through, complete with the signing photograph where the pin isn't quite reaching the contract, but the promo photo did go out. That loan is ready to go. Fulham made an inquiry about Eric Dyer from Spurs as he was omitted from Spurs' Ange Postecoglou's squad for the first 2 Premier League games. You heard about that back in the update. One of the 9 players currently on the block as we get toward the end of the window. Cottagers also keen on Atalanta's forward Duvan Zapata after Alexander Mitrovic sealed a move to Al Hilal. It's from the four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Manchester City set to make a second bid to Wolves for Matheus Nunes after that £47 million bid was rejected initially, but they're also prepared to walk away from the deal if they don't believe that it offers them value for their money. Barcelona is going to sign Joao Cancelo on a season-long loan for Manchester City in the next couple of days. No option to purchase. Everton have opened up discussions with Udinese over a move on striker Beto, but the Serie A club will not sell him unless the release clause is met, and that's £30 million, courtesy of the Liverpool Echo. Sofian Amrabat left out of Fiorentina's squad for their Europa Conference League tie with Rapid Vienna after having his head turned by interest from Manchester United and Liverpool. Bayern Munich's interest in Fulham's defender Kenny Tete has led to the Cottagers looking at AZ Alkmaar's 23-year-old fullback Yukinari Sugawara as a replacement. Four-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Sheffield United are in talks with French club Troyes over a deal for winger Mama Baldé. That's from L'Equipe. The Blades are also keen to re-sign midfielders James McAtee and Tommy Doyle on loan from Manchester City. Both players far down the Premier League champion pecking order. And Burnley's €20 million or £17 million bid for PSV Eindhoven winger Johan Bakayoko has been rejected, who've demanded more for the Belgian forward. That's courtesy of our friend Fabrizio Romano. Now, let's get you into the matchups for this weekend, starting off with juiceboxes on Friday Night Football. And it involves Luton Town. Luton Town, yes, is a large underdog, basically north of plus 1180 at Stamford Bridge, going up against Chelsea. Tomorrow, your early match, Bournemouth and Spurs. Spurs are a minus 111 at the Vitality. Bournemouth basically a plus 285. 10 o'clock starts, and there are four. Arsenal minus 435 at home hosting Fulham, who are a plus 1380. Brentford at the G-Tech hosting Crystal Palace at a plus 116. Crystal Palace is a plus 258 to win. Everton and Wolves. Maybe you should take the draw here. Everton's a plus 131. The draw's a plus 238. Wolves are a plus 225. 10 o'clock, Manchester United hosting Nottingham Forest at a minus 323. Nottingham Forest and the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. It's basically a plus 850. 12:30, your late game on Saturday, Brighton and West Ham. Brighton's a minus 189. Draw's a plus 380. West Ham is a plus 475 on the road. Three matches on your Sunday, two of them at 9 o'clock. Turf Moor, Burnley hosting Villa at a plus 238. Villa comes to town at a plus 117. Your draw's a plus 260. Sheffield United hosting Manchester City at Bramall Lane at a plus 1563 in the composite. Manchester City a minus 556 forward. Then your late game at 11:30, Newcastle and Liverpool is at St. Mary's. Newcastle's a plus 122. Your draw's a plus 292, and Liverpool on the road are a plus 206. That is your rundown of everything that is going on in the Premier League. Once again, enjoy on your favorite providers, whether it's over the air, Peacock, USA, those families of networks, Talk Sport if you listen that way, or if you listen on Sirius XMFC, or if you follow along on the individual teams' outputs. It's always great to have everything going on in the Premier League. That's your preview of week number 3. Thanks for listening to everything going on here with Prem and Proper. Play safe, everybody. Enjoy the game.